first, thanks everybody for coming on to this call. I really appreciate that. Today's topic on the email is Remember When. And aside from being a country song by Alan Jackson, I'm a city kid, so I had to look that up. But other than being a country song from Alan Jackson, I was in a dealership last week, and a sales manager told me that a salesperson, when he approached the desk, he predicted what the salesperson was going to say, and, he was pretty much right. And he goes, it's just terrible, it's horrible. And he gave him some advice at the desk, and the salesperson turned and left, and the sales manager looked at me and said, you really think he's going to go say that? It really made me stop and think. We in this business, mainly because of the number of hours we work and the repetition, we forget to remember when. And I was going to skip this topic because when it first hit me, I'm like, that's not really an actionable item. And part of what I do and what I insist upon for myself is to give you an actionable item, something that you can take and apply to your business immediately that can help your business improve in some way. So I was going to bypass this because it didn't seem like there was an actionable item until I realized that probably the most important actionable item was to remember when. When you were first promoted in this industry to be a manager, if you could, if you're like me and the brain damage has got to be too much, I understand, too many years in the business, but if you can, and we all can, try and remember what it was like that first day or two. What did it feel like to be a new manager? And if you remember those feelings of accomplishment, of responsibility, of how important it was that you help your people succeed. Over time, we get a little worn down and a little jaded we get busy being busy. And we forget sometimes what our real mission, our real job is. Of course, it's to sell cars or fix cars. That's the core part of the job. But really, what are we doing? We're not selling cars as managers. We refer to that. That's a salesperson's job. Your job is to manage the department and lead your people. And that's whatever kind of manager you are. And when we're new, we embrace that. We get excited about the fact that we're responsible for these people. And you know what starts to happen? The first days that you're promoted, you notice on people's desks the picture of their wife and their children. And you start to ask questions about it. And what you see is something that's really a miracle. You see a person, and behind them, you see the people behind them. So your sense of responsibility, your indebtedness to help them succeed grows exponentially as you look around that dealership. And over time, we stop seeing the people behind them. And sometimes we stop seeing them. And it astounded me, and yet I get it, that a manager could predict what a salesperson was going to say, which, by the way, really wasn't a good approach on the salesperson's part. And yet, he didn't stop him, try and correct him, try and help him, get out of his chair and go talk to the customer. No, he just predicted what he was going to do wrong. And then he gave him advice anyway and sent him back. And then to say to me, you don't think he's going to do that, do you? It kind of made me think, wow, how jaded, how far have you come? If you remember back when, then you remember what an opportunity it was and really what a privilege it was. Whether it's, us old-timers in the car business, or remember that we got a much cooler demo. Maybe we didn't have to move as much snow off cars, those really important, vital things that give us status. We planned our sales meetings. We planned our one-on-ones. We sincerely wanted these people to succeed. We felt like they were ours. And when we lose that it's a privilege and we lose that it's an honor to help people succeed, then we start to feel that it's a burden. And if it's a burden, then maybe you need to take the actionable item to examine yourself, to look at whether or not you're doing everything you can to help your people succeed. And if you are, great. If you're not, what can you do to do better? It's funny, I asked this sales manager, I said, wouldn't it make more sense that the better that they got, the more training, the more help you gave them, the better the results would be for you, for your dealership? His first response was to look at me like I was from outer space. Now, I'm used to that response, but in this case, he kind of gave me the, huh? And I said, no, really, think about it. I mean, I know that it's obvious, but sometimes the biggest problem we have in life is what's easy to do is incredibly easy not to do. And what would be easy to do is slow yourself down, see these people as individuals. And, you know, sometimes the greatest thing you can do for someone is to fire them because they're not built for this job and they're not going to succeed at it. And once you've exhausted all the possibilities, you can be compassionate about that. But sometimes that's the best thing you can do. You know, when we get so far jaded in this business, we don't even do that. We don't even have that kind of mercy left anymore. We let someone come into work every day for 10 or 12 hours a day, struggle their butt off, not make enough money, walk around completely stressed out to the max. And the most we can muster is, yeah, they suck. That's not going to solve their problem. It's certainly not going to solve your problem. So even in your own selfish interest that we all like to look at, wouldn't it be better to just embrace those people again and remember when, go back to when you were new, bring that enthusiasm? It's just amazing to me how we walk in and it's like the time to make the donuts commercial over and over again. I think they refer to that as insanity, doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. Every day is another chance to remake ourselves in some way, shape, or form. So stop taking average or below average effort from yourself, and then you'll be able to stop taking average or below average effort from your people. The more you care, the more they care. The more they care, the higher the CSI gets, the higher the retention gets. You know, no one cares what you know. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's not just for customers, and that's not just some bumper sticker or a T-shirt. If it's not, I really should put that on a T-shirt. If it's not a bumper sticker or a T-shirt, well, it should be. And again, you know, we forget more than what we know in this industry, and most industries, but especially this one. We forget more than what we know day to day, and most of the stuff we forget is the important stuff. It's watching a salesperson put a license plate on the back of a vehicle and hand them the keys to take a test drive. Well, at the end of the test drive, they're going to hand them the keys back and say, I got to think about it. Well, what is it? Was it the equipment? Was it the ride? Did you not like it? Could it have been a used car that's been parked for 3 weeks so the brakes are going to squeak? But if you're not in the car, you can't point that out to them. So again, you can't help these people. Some of them come in, they got problems. They got a challenge. They need to trade into a different car for a reason. You throw them the keys and tell them, go ahead, take a ride. We're saying we don't care. You're on your own. And yet I have managers that I know personally that will sit there and go, look at that idiot not taking him for a ride. I just want to go over and choke some sense into him at that point. What are you thinking? We do sit and watch people do the wrong thing, and we tolerate it. And it's no different than kids. You know, I'm not the firmest dad in the world, but if you don't have some guidelines, then they don't have any guidelines. And if you really want to do the right thing by your children, then what are you going to do? You're going to set some expectations and guidelines to help them. What are you going to do for your salespeople? You got to set some expectations and guidelines for service people, for anybody in a dealership. You know, I mean, when a dealer first signs his paperwork, he wants to have the greatest dealership in the world. And then at some point, and I've been a partner in a dealership, so I guess I'm qualified to say this. At some point, we lose a little part of our brain, that part that controls the ability to feel all that compassion for our people. And that's not to say that some dealers don't have a tremendous amount of compassion. They do, and some of them will actually keep people who are doing really bad at their job for a really long time. That's not being compassionate. That's allowing them to come to work every day with a greater and greater sense of failure and underachievement. So today I just wanted to keep the call short, and I wanted to give you that actionable item to try and remember when. Remember when you were new. Remember when your first opportunity came. Remember how that made you feel. And try and take some of that enthusiasm and recapture it, because when you do, people steal it off you. When you're down, ultimately they're going to be down. And, life isn't perfect. We're going to hit our struggles. But if you can just go back and find some of that enthusiasm, some of that joy. They say that we lose about 80% of our creativity between the ages of 5 and 7. That just happens to be the time that we go to school and everybody gives us all the limitations. And we do the exact same thing in our business life. We sit there and we say, well, he or she is never going to get any better because. Well, try this on. Maybe they're not getting any better because they're not getting any better management. They're not getting any better help. And if your business isn't getting better, maybe you're not actively trying to find the right people. So at the end of the day, it starts and ends with us. And one last thing before I finish any comments today is, for all you guys out there, you can apply this at home and with your wife, but be really careful about doing that right away, because you know that when you go home and you try and recapture all that enthusiasm and you be really nice, she's going to think you did something bad. So just be careful about applying that there. If anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to let me know now. And otherwise, I hope you have a great day, and I hope you can take that actionable item and just remember when. All right, everybody. Well, I really appreciate you getting on this call, and I hope you have a great day and a great week until I talk to you again.